Good morning, students.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good
Good
morning, ma'am.
morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning to all. So many less participations. Anyways, I'll start. Okay, 9:25. I'll start. I'll finish off quickly. Okay, so see, before moving on to this break, I had shared with you this link and I told you to go through this link so that when I'll explain, you'll have some idea about all these theories. Okay, so I will again explain this. We have so much time. Your session will be extended till February. Okay, notice has come from university. I hope you know also. The session is till February. On December, you will write the assignments, online assignments for getting your result for the previous semester, and this semester you will write on February or March, like that. Okay, so we have some time in hand, so I will explain all these things in detail. So these are the capital structure theories. Okay, we had started with the discussion on capital structure, and to brief you on capital structure is a perfect mixture of debentures and equity in a company's capital. The perfect mixture or the perfect ratio of debt and equity in a company's capital formulation, that is known as a capital structure. Too much debt is not good, too much equity is not good, so a perfect balance between debt and equity has to be achieved so that the company can run smoothly. And to achieve, how to achieve that perfect mixture will be taught to you through this all these theories and all the sums that we'll be doing. Okay, so we start with the first capital structure theory. These theories should be in your mind. If you take finance as your specialization, if you do MBA, then these theories should be stuck in your mind, that there are four different theories of capital structure. Okay, so first ever theory of capital structure is net income approach. What is net income approach? According to net income approach, a firm may increase the total value of the firm by lowering its cost of capital. So there will be different concepts and you will have to remember all those concepts. Okay, which concept is applicable for which theory, that you should clearly understand and remember forever. You should not mix all the concepts. You will find there will be confusing concepts between these theories, but you should go through them so well that you should not create the confusion within your mind. Okay, so first ever theory, which is net income approach, it says that the firm may increase its value by how will it increase its value? It will increase its value by decreasing its cost of capital. If cost gets decreased, obviously it indicates a good notion for the company that it is going to survive for longer period of time, because its cost is low, that means profit will be higher. So according to net income approach, it is said that a firm may increase its total value. How will it do? It will do it by lowering its cost of capital. When cost of capital is lowest and the value of the firm is greatest, we call it the optimum capital structure for the firm. And at this point, the market price per share is maximized. So what it is mentioned, read this line carefully. When the cost of capital will be the lowest. Cost of capital, I hope you understand what is it. Cost of capital is nothing but that WACC that we have been doing sums on that in this chapter itself. WACC, right? So when that WACC will be the lowest and the value of the firm is going to be the greatest, because they have an inverse relationship. When value of the firm will be increased, it will increase when the cost of capital will be the lowest. So when cost of capital is lowest and the value of the firm is the greatest, we call it the optimum capital structure for the firm. And at this point, the market price per share is maximized. How do we see the effect of the maximum value of the firm, we see its effect on the market price of the share that is at which the share is being traded at the moment in the market. You will also find, along with the lowest cost of capital and the greatest value of the firm, you will also find that the company is enjoying its highest or maximized market price per share in the market. Okay. The same is possible continuously by lowering its cost of capital by the use of debt capital. In other words, using more debt capital with a corresponding reduction in cost of capital, the value of the firm will increase. Here it is also mentioned that if you use more debt in your capital structure, then it will lead to a corresponding reduction in the overall cost of capital. And thus, so what does it indicate? If you're using more debt, then the overall cost of capital will be reduced, and thus the value of the firm will be increasing. You will understand it better when you will do the sums, how this overall cost of capital reduces when you use more debt in the capital structure. Okay, so at the moment, you just remember that this net income approach, what does it say? It says that the firm can increase its value by lowering its cost of capital. That is number one. And number two is, the company can use, if it can use more debt in its capital structure, then that more debt will lead to a corresponding reduction in the cost of capital. And thus, that will bring an increase in the value of the firm. And number three, this increased value of the firm will be reflected in the market price per share of the firm at which it is being traded at the moment in the market. Okay. The same is possible only when the cost of debt is less than the cost of equity. Okay. Now, how will it happen that you are using more debt and it is reducing the overall cost of capital? It is only possible when the cost of debt, that means now you are only talking about cost of debt, not the overall cost of capital. When only the cost of debt will be lower than only the cost of equity, then you can see an overall decrease in the cost of capital. And number two is, there are no taxes. Another assumption is, there will be no taxes in prevailing in the market. You will have to pay no taxes. Okay. And third point is, the use of debt does not change the risk perception of the investors, since the degree of leverage is increased to that extent. Let us read it again. The use of debt does not change the risk perception of the investors, since the degree of leverage is increased to that extent. Now, at the very first day when I started with the discussion on capital structure, I told you that if the firm is using more debt in its capital structure, it may happen that the investors will perceive more risk of investing their money in the company, because the company is having lot of debt and it has a compulsion to pay the rate of interest on the debt, right? So that should not happen. This net income approach is possible only when these three conditions are prevailing in the market. The first condition is, the cost of debt should be lower than the cost of equity. You know how to calculate KD and KE. Now, don't ask me what is KD and KE. You know how to calculate KD and KE. So that cost of debt should be lower than the cost of equity. Second thing is, there should be no taxes prevailing in the market. And third thing is, the use of debt should not make the investors feel that the company is at a higher risk. Okay, if these three things happen, only then the net income approach will be applicable. The company will be able to increase its value by decreasing its cost of capital by incorporating more debt in its capital structure. Since the amount of debt in the capital structure increases, weighted average cost of capital decreases, which leads to increase in the value or the total value of the firm. So the increased amount of debt with constant amount of cost of equity and cost of debt will highlight the earnings of the shareholders. We will have the example discussed in the class so that it becomes mathematically clear also. Okay, now see, you will have the sums like this. It will be your homework. You will just jot down this sum in your copy after the class. Okay, this is going to be your homework for today. So, but we will explain or discuss this sum in the class. Now, X Limited is a company and it presents the following particulars. All of you should follow me properly, okay? So, this X Limited is a company. This X Limited is a company and it is serving to you the following particulars. The first particular is EBIT, that is earnings before interest and tax, is given to you. This EBIT may also be known as net operating income. It is given as rupees 30,000. The equity capitalization ratio, that is the cost of equity. This cost of equity term may also be written as equity capitalization ratio. Okay, it is 15%. That is KE is 0.15. Okay. And cost of debt is also given to you in the sum. It is 10% and total capital amounted to 2 lakh. That means inclusive of debt and equity, the total capital is amounting to rupees 2 lakh. Okay. Now see what you are asked to calculate. Calculate the cost of capital and the value of the firm for each of the following alternative leverage after applying the net income approach. Now, what is this leverage options are given to you? Leverage options means the proportion of debt to the total capital in the firm. Okay. Suppose if the leverage, you can see on your screen, the first leverage option is 0%. That means no debt. The entire 2 lakh is inclusive of the equity capital. No debt is there. Then second leverage option is 20%. It means 20% out of 2 lakh is debt and remaining 80% out of 2 lakh is equity. Then it says 50%. That means out of 2 lakh, 1 lakh is debt and 1 lakh is equity. Then it is 70%. Out of 2 lakh, 70% is debt and 30% is equity and 100%. That means all the 2 lakh has been accumulated through debentures, through debt. Okay. So these are the options given to you and you will have to calculate the cost of capital and the value of the firm. Now we will prepare a schedule like this where you will mention the heading as degree of leverage 0, 0.2, 0.5, 0.7 and 1.0. These are coming from the options given in your question. 0, 20%, 50%, 70% and 100%. From there, these options that you are writing. Then equity capital, out of this percentage only you will calculate. Then see, equity capital will, you will calculate with the help of the percentage given. Then you will have the total column. If you can calculate equity, you can calculate debt also. Out of 2 lakh, everything is being calculated. Okay. Then total you will write. Total will all be 2 lakh for all. Then EBIT is given as, let us see, what is it? EBIT is 30%, right? Yeah, sorry, 30,000. EBIT at the rate of 15%, from where it is coming, 15%, yeah. EBIT at the cost of equity, you may not write 15% also because it is directly given in your question that EBIT is 30,000. So you will write EBIT as 30,000. Less, you will write the interest on debt. First interest will be nil because there is no debt at all. Second interest will be, how much in percentage is given in the question? 10%. Cost of debt is 10%. So for the second option, that is when 20% leverage is the 20% is the leverage ratio. In there, the cost interest on debt will be 10% of 40%. So 4,000. sorry, 10% of 40,000. So 4,000. Then 10% of 1 lakh, 10% of 1 lakh 40, 10% of 2 lakh. Like that, you will find the less interest on debt. So you will find earnings to equity. From EBIT, you will have to deduct the interest on debt, and then you will have the earnings available to equity shareholders. So you will have 30,000, 26,000, like that. You will have all the values. Then market value of debt. What are the market values of debt? This will come from the very first two things that you have already calculated. First one will be nil, second one will be 40,000, then 1 lakh, then 1 lakh 40, 2 lakh. You are just copying the values from the second item. So market value of debt will be this. Then market value of equity, how you will have to calculate. For calculating market value of equity, this is the formula. Earnings divided by cost of equity. For calculating market value of equity, you will have to use this formula. Earnings divided by cost of equity. Earnings is which one? Earnings is this values 30,000, 26,000, 20,000, 16,000, 10,000, and you will have to divide this value by the cost of equity given, which is 15%. Okay. Anyways, you may not do this. You'll have confusion. I'll go on elaborate discussion. Okay. I'll pen down the sums. Then we will discuss. It will be better. Okay. It will be better. Okay. Now after you will do this sum, we'll do this sum elaborately. Okay. After we finish up the explanation, the theoretical portion, we will do this sum separately. Right. From the above table, you will see that the value of the firm will be increased if there is a proportionate increase in debt capital. When you will calculate the value of the firm, you will see that it is increasing with the proportionate increase in the inclusion of debt in the capital structure. But there will be a reduction in overall cost of capital. So cost of capital is increased and the value of the firm is maximum if a firm uses 100% debt capital. See, when the company is using 100% debt, see the last option. When the company is using 100% debt, you will see that the average cost of capital, the last item you see in the table, average cost of capital is the minimum. See, from it was previously 30%, it reduced to 20%, 25%, 23%, and finally 20%. So it kept on decreasing and it became minimum when the company used 100% debt in its capital structure. All right. So these things you will understand better when you will solve the sums. It is interesting to note that the net income approach can also be graphically presented as under. So when you will draw the things from the table in a graph, you will see it is appearing something like this. Cost of debt 10%, cost of equity 15%, and overall cost of capital or weighted average cost of capital that you have calculated will go on decreasing and it will reduce till nil. If you move further, it will go on decreasing and it will meet this cost of debt percentage, which is 10%. The degree of leverage is plotted along the x-axis, whereas KE, KW, and KD are on the y-axis. It reveals that when the cheaper debt capital in the capital structure is proportionately increased, the weighted average cost of capital KW decreases and consequently the cost of debt is KD. Thus, it is needless to say that the optimal capital structure is the minimum cost of capital if financial leverage is 1. In other words, the maximum capital application of debt capital. So what does it say? That in the overall or the optimal capital structure will be the minimum cost of capital if financial leverage is 1. That means 100% debt is used in the capital structure, then the overall or the minimum cost of capital is going to be the minimum. And also the value of the firm will be the maximum at this point. Okay. So if any you are having any doubt, you can ask. Okay. So what you will see, the gist is, if I tell you in a single line, it says if you go on increasing the amount of debt in the capital structure, then the overall cost of capital will go on decreasing, and it will be the minimum one when 100% capital will be accumulated with the help of debt. Understood? So the overall cost of capital is going to be the minimum when 100% debt will be utilized in the capital structure. You go through this theory properly tonight. Okay, this is your homework. You go through this theory properly and tell me if there is any doubt tomorrow. Then only I will move on to the next theory. Is it clear? Is it clear to everyone? Please tell me. Is it understandable? Theoretically,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
say, yeah, theoretically, it should be clear to you. Practically, we will clear out when you will solve the sums online. Okay. Theoretically, it should be clear to you. What does it say? One is in the overall cost of capital goes on decreasing if you increase the amount of debt in your capital structure. But in order to make this happen, there are some conditions which needs to be fulfilled. First condition is that KD should be less than KE. In the problem also that we had taken up and did not finish, the KD was 10% and KE was 15%. So KD is less than KE. So this is the first condition that should prevail. Second condition is there should be no taxes. And the third condition is, condition should be the investor should not perceive higher risk and stop investing in the firm. The investors should not perceive more risk if the company includes more amount of debt in its capital structure. Okay. So if these three conditions are met, then the net income approach is applicable, which says that the value of the firm will increase when the overall cost of capital will be the minimum, and the overall cost of capital can be minimum by including the 100% amount of debt in the capital structure of a firm. Okay, so this is all about the net income approach. Tomorrow we will move ahead with the rest of the theories. Now respond please. You can unmute and respond. Abhijit, Abhishna, Anurag, Aryan, Ashish,
Yes, ma'am.
Ashmita, Vibetsna,
Present, ma'am.
Debrupa, Harshita,
Present,
Ishika
ma'am.
Chaudhary, Ishika Agarwal, Kajal,
Present,
Kasar,
ma'am.
Khushi, Quizan,
Present, ma'am.
Mahima, Mamta, Mohit, Muskan Prasad, Muskan Gupta,
Yes, ma'am.
Namrata, Nidhi,
Present, ma'am.
Nitesh, Parnadeep, Pavan, Prashil, Pratiksha Chetri, Pratiksha Giri, Priyanka,
Present, ma'am.
Pooja, Rahul, Rajat, Ramkrishna, Rohit Bansal, Rohit Pandey,
Present, ma'am.
Sagar, Salina, Shalini,
Present, ma'am.
Siddhant, Saurav,
Present,
Sonu,
ma'am.
Supriya, Suraj,
Present, ma'am.
Swayam, Tanya, Vinit. Okay. So fine then. If you have understood, so good. then you should jot down the theory in your copy. Don't jot down the problem. Okay, we'll discuss it later on, but the theory portion should be written down in your copy tonight itself. That is your homework for today. Okay, you write the net income approach properly in your copy. Okay, then you can leave the class today. See you tomorrow again in the morning. Bye bye.